86 hack to make it look like older Firefox, aka reducing the amount of space that's taken up by me trying to browse. Here we go. This is the user chrome.css file I'm using. These are the primary components. There are others as well that make it to where it's a little less of a problem to tolerate. First of all, you have to go to About Config, and if you're using a newer version of Firefox, you need to type in chrome://global/content/config.xhtml. Now that's actually a file inside of a JA file under a directory structure, which I'll point out if I get some time in this video, which needs to be edited because, oh my god, what a pain in the butt. But anyway, you type in tool, legacy, user profile, customization, style sheets, and you enable it by saying true. At which point, Firefox will really pay attention to these settings. Now, the first thing I did here, if you're not aware immediately, is this isn't my work, this is my work trimming someone else's. What I did was I looked up how to do this by moving all of the controls, address bar, everything onto one line and then having tabs separate because I like it that way. And this is a common request, and it's common enough that this has been done repeatedly ever since Firefox decided to destroy this functionality. Now, you can already see here I have the title bar a visible thing, and I have it set to toolbars menu bar, which is this part up here, and I also have enabled bookmark toolbar. Now, let's turn that off and watch what happens. You may have noticed that our space that was letting us see tabs is now missing. So in order for this to work, this is a horrible kludge. You have to use the bookmarks toolbar as a background, which means when I'm clicking this, I'm not able to click the toolbar for bookmarks. What I'm clicking is the empty space that's not styled or functional or visible for the tab bar, because this hack destroys the tab bar itself but makes the tabs work. But in order for them to work, they have to have something they play off of the top of. So I'm using the bookmark bar as a substitute. Yeah, this is complete crap. And that means if you use bookmark bar, this is going to fail, so you can't do this. I don't have any way of fixing this. But here we go. Root URL bar container, the container for this address bar here, which includes the nav bar here, or not, depending on how you configure it, but usually does. It says the minimum width is 0 pixels, the maximum width is 1000, and the height is minimum and maximum at 29 pixels. That's just what worked on my computer. It may not work for yours. And Weird Flex Bro setting here says 80% and says it's important. Everything's important. Okay. But anyway, it tells the system to make the address bar have these characteristics. The next thing it does is it makes the navigation bar main toolbar. Organizes it under group 1, which gives it its first designation. It says it's supposed to make the height for a total 36 pixels. I don't know why that works. The border top is shifted up -22 pixels. A lot like the 29 pixels, these are related. The border top width is then set to 0. Box shadow is turned off for some reason. Minimum height is set to 24 and 24 for the height maximum. And then the margin is moved to shift it -51 pixels by 300. The 300 pixels corresponds with the width for the standard menu here, aka view menu bar. Now if I do that, I can't fix it. Well, I can put menu bar back. Again, this only works after you've finished it. If you do any of these clicks I just did, it may just make it to where you can't load the thing anymore, which means you'd have to go into your Firefox profile and erase user Chrome CSS or change the name or something so it would ignore it, then restart and hope it works. But here we go. By moving it up 51 pixels, on top of the -22 pixels for the border top, which may just mean that the border top isn't underneath, it shifts it over by 300 pixels, so it pushes over here. So now this thing is then shifted 300 pixels to the right, 51 pixels up, on top of the 22 pixels, or not, depending on how you look at it, whether it's Tuesday and whether or not you're standing on one foot, all to move this thing up here and put it right next to the help button. Now, the reason I did this, if you're not aware of it, is I don't want extra control bars that aren't needed. Most of this is wasted space to me. Having an entire bar taken up with 4 or 5 items and nothing else right below all of this bothered me. But by doing that, I then shifted up everything, including, yes, the tab bar, And the address bar comes up with it, thank goodness. So that's only one part of the hack. And again, the address bar, URL bar container is altered in this way, so it'll flex between here and here instead of taking up an entire space. And it works out to 1,000 pixels. That worked for me. Again, this may not work for you. Then we get what's called in the system a personal toolbar. That's just the bookmarks toolbar. And in this case, I told it to set it as designation number 2. There can also be a number 1 here. I didn't mess with that originally. I had this is 1 and this is 2 or something back and forth. It's just set up 2. Okay. I could put in a 0, for instance. But anyway, this one is set to 28 pixels maximum and minimum height, so it's fixed. The border top width, again, is 0. Padding on the top is set to 0. I could also end padding up here and that sort of thing. I didn't. Box shadow, none, etc. All that does is it gives it a placeholder setting from here to here for me to be able to alter that setting. And it ended up just making this 28, this is 24, and this is 29. That means this, the bookmarks toolbar, is 1 pixel smaller than the address bar. For some reason, that worked. I don't know why. I don't know what I'm doing because there's no clear-cut guide on how Mozilla Firefox does the styling anymore that I can find that works properly. I'll have links below in the description for them. Then we get the tabs toolbar, which is what I'm trying to mess with here. Now, I can't fix it any better than this, but again, I set it to 28 pixels so it'd match the bookmarks bar, so it'd fit, and it still kind of doesn't really fit. I mean, it really doesn't. If you hover over these things, most of it lines up, but it's still kind of broken. But anyway, getting back to where to do, oh, there it is. And again, it does padding top 0, yada, 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 yada. But anyway, this one has padding top as 1 pixel. That worked for some reason. And it just says, try to hide the display of the private browsing indicator, which obviously did not work. Firefox giveth and taketh away our ability to make it to where our private browsing doesn't scream loudly, I'm doing private browsing! I'm sorry, but that's the dumbest thing on earth. Oh, alert everybody in the room with an incredibly extreme color change so people can wonder why I'm using a private window at a coffee shop where I'm untraceable sometimes. If anybody's curious, no, Firefox is not on your site any more than any other corporation. But anyway, let's move on. Navigator toolbox, in full screen, position relative, z-index 1, height 3 pixels, margin bottom, yada, yada, yada. And this one here and this one here, all of these, this entire section here, is just so that if I hit F11, it actually does that instead of having the tabs hanging down. And I have no idea how it works. Yes, I'm just being a script kiddie. Page action button, display none, important. Well, most of it's good. I got to get rid of reader view. URL bar zoom button, I got rid of it, so I have to put in the reader view in here, and that'll help it. That'll be the next vid, I guess. Anyway, to review, you have to go into your About config, and you have to type in Toolkit, Legacy, User Profile, Customization, Style Sheets enabled by typing in true or double-clicking to make it true. And if you want to load the real About config, you have to do chrome://global/content/config.xhtml, and I'll include a link to that in the description. And in that, this enables your use of the user Chrome CSS file to do all these lovely changes just to make it to where all of the controls are in one bar and the address bar is on the same bar and all of my plugin toys are on the bar as well. And all I have to do is get rid of this stinking thing and this stinking thing, and it will be not perfect, but a lot less crappy. And yes, I'd love it if it didn't tell everybody on the entire planet I'm using a private browsing window by screaming burple. Okay, next. This is the text file you'll have below in the description for where I got most of this information. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm being a script kiddie. Now onto a slightly different subject. HTTPS, Wiki, Arch Linux org, yada yada, Firefox tweaks. They work under Windows partially. Chrome, global content, config, XHTML, about cache information. If you're using a web browser and you want the thing to never dump a bunch of garbage on your computer, this is how you do it. The trouble is, these are all the settings you use, again, under your about config. Warning, if you do this, instead of your computer crashing gracefully, it will crash without warning. It could crash while I'm doing the damn video right now. It won't even warn you because it can't. I've turned off its ability to save anything to the hard drive unless I explicitly demand that it do it. The reason I do that is I don't want to wear out a computer hard drive that's solid state. SSD drives do wear out. Number two, I don't want it rewriting the hard drive because I use the hard drive activity as a warning that a virus is trying to crawl into my computer, because viruses have to dump to the hard drive. They can't just stay in RAM all the time. The other reason I do this is so that I can make this deliberately very portable. I can copy this to another hard drive or just pull the drive and plug it into another computer and just start off where I left off, cruising the internet. Even if it crashes, I can configure it to save that information if I want to, but I don't. This involves changing the settings for browser cache, for memory and disk, to enable or disable them. If you enable it for memory and disk, this can speed up your computer and it will use the hard drive. You can disable it for disk and it'll just be RAM based. You can disable it for memory and have it just use the hard drive if you want to have it record everything you're doing on purpose, because it does speed up load of the pages. You can also tell it to use a max entry size for the disk and capacity usage on the hard drive. And there is apparently a similar set of settings you'll have to explore yourself for changing how much RAM it uses, which would probably prevent all these crashes. That actually is a setting that I looked into, and it has to do with setting whether or not you want to use a max entry size on RAM, dynamic or fixed. If you make it fixed, it'll just run out of memory. If you make it dynamic, it can crash easier. I can't configure this any better than I talked about. So let's review. Altering about config can change a lot of settings in your computer, but they can't change the behavior of the web browser. To customize the browser, you have to alter at least one file on the system. The one that's visible that you can edit is called user Chrome CSS, and there's another one in the same directory structure I should point out. But the most important thing is these edits will let you change certain things about the browser's behavior and appearance in a radical way. And next, this is the way I like it because it's my preference. Now I'm going to show you one other variation of this. When we hit customize on it, I can choose to turn off the title bar, which I already showed you I could do. And I can go ahead and turn off the toolbars. And then we can hit done, and it goes to this. I mean, it has nothing to work with here. If I go way up at the top edge here, I can just barely no, I can't. So you get the idea here. And then if I hit F11, that's all I get as a change. This is not optimal. This is absolutely the worst way to run a computer. What a way to run a railroad. Okay. But you can get away with using your computer in these ways, and it will work most of the time. Oh, thanks for the private browsing note. And you can alter these so radically that you can break things, just like I did on purpose for your entertainment. Ha ha ha. Now that you've seen this, now you know you can have all the power you want to over it, and you are responsible for how screwed up it gets. Do you want to go there? If you do, read the instructions, read every page, and learn. Or cut and paste what I've got here on the screen. Thanks for watching, have a good day, and I wish you all luck with that.